Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Revenova, the official TMS provider for the Freight Coach. You guys, I've been a broker for a long time, and the tools that are at your disposal with Revenova help you eliminate bouncing between systems, which improves your accuracy when you are managing multiple tasks throughout your workday. Plus, it's built into the Salesforce cloud, so your CRM is fully integrated with your TMS, eliminating yet another silo. In today's day and age, you are definitely concerned about the safety of your data. With Revinova, it's fully protected. They have cutting edge security that keeps your information safe so you can focus on what matters most, and that's growing your business. Speaking of growing your business, with Rate and Lane IQ, you get real time pricing and route recommendations, helping you optimize costs and improve operational efficiencies, which ultimately helps you make smarter decisions. If you are like me and have recurring shipments from non-EDI customers, they have intuitive cloning features that let you easily replicate previous shipments, saving both shipper and carrier rates with just a few taps. If you are ready to learn more, visit www.revinova.com to request a demo. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We are going to dive right in today. I got a very special guest for you guys. I'm going to bring him up here in just a minute. I'm doing This Week in Freight, powered by my friends at DAT, early this week because I'm going to be on site at the TIA Capital Ideas Conference on Thursday and Friday. So I want to make sure that I get this in. And again, all of these lanes are 100% viewer submitted. So if you want your lane broken down, send it to my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. And we will break that down. So today it's a reefer lane analysis, and we are talking about we're staying in the Midwest here, you guys. Detroit, Michigan to Kansas City, Missouri. And again, we're out here to kind of talk about my lane yesterday, you guys. What's going on this lane? The rate's actually going down, and it's stabilized. And again, contrary to a lot of the headlines that you might see out there, rates are up all across the board. Tender rejections are all over the place right now, but we're finding stability out there in the market. And this is why I always want you guys to pay attention for more than 30 seconds or 3 days on how some of these lanes perform, because there's going to be pockets of chaos, right? Like tender rejections can rise, capacity can drop, fuel is going to go up, things are going to happen, but we are so overly reactive at times. Not saying that this lane couldn't flip in an hour from now, but we have to find that stability marker that is out there. So again, first thing we always look at, you guys, 772 miles. So that lane in particular, if that picks on a Thursday to a Monday or a Friday to a Monday, exponentially more expensive to ship that out than a Monday to Wednesday. Because like we say, general rule of thumb, 500 miles for a day of transit out there for those drivers. But most importantly, you guys, even though the rates might rise and they might be higher out there, you got to find that marker because most lanes perform the same, right? The seasonality of a lot of these lanes are going to perform the same, whether it's a tight market, a broker's market, shippers, it doesn't matter. You got to find that marker, and then you got to deliver that out there to your customer. And I just, again, I know that this is only 2 lanes that are out there that we've broken down. These are both inside of the Midwest, but they're trending in the opposite direction of what you see out there in social media. And that's why you can't take national averages to heart on how you're pricing out a lot of this stuff. You can't go out there and see some of this stuff and make that your entire pricing strategy moving forward, because you might prematurely pull the trigger and pigeonhole yourself and pigeonhole your customer. And you got to let some of this stuff play out. That's why I personally like to wait about 60 days. That's like a lifetime in today's day and age, but it takes a while for markets to correct. And especially when fuel spikes up or there's other things that go on out there, we got to wait for that to kind of shake out for capacity to loosen back up, or actually see like, hey, this is tight and it's going to remain tight out there. Then you go out there and talk to your shippers. So this lane, all things considered, is trending downward. It might get a little bit less out there, but again, it's a power lane. And that's another thing I want you guys to always keep in mind. Detroit to Kansas City, power lane. Like, you are always going to find trucks for it. And if you're in that spot market style, truck in hand pricing with your customers, you are in a very strong position right now. But you might have started noticing that, like, you know, again, if I was moving this lane in particular and I raised my rates to kind of capture that, you know, when prices spiked out there, if my margins are starting to increase here, and again, I'm a capitalist, I love making money as much as the next guy, but if it's starting to get to that point where you're like, all right, my margin percentages is getting a little bit too high, which is great. I want you to make money, but you got to understand somebody else might be coming in less. And then your customer's going to ask you, hey, why are you up here and everybody else is starting to trend down? All right. So you got to play this stuff smart here and really study how your lanes perform over a certain time frame. Okay. Because not everybody is contracted, same rate, all of this stuff out here. Things can change, things can drop, and you don't want to be the last one to course correct or price adjust and then have it cost you in either direction that's out there. So I love the fact that this lane is going contrary to what a lot of the headlines and social media posts are, because it shows you guys all that nothing is a one size fits all. Everything is very much unique in a lot of the lanes that we are going to run out there. And it is your job to follow the trend line, find out when those pockets of tightness are going to happen, deliver that information to your customers so you can continue to service them at a high level when everybody else out there is scrambling. So that is the reefer lane analysis here for this week in freight. Take it to heart, you guys. It's one of those kind of gray area mileage things out there. So pay attention to that for weekend pricing. And again, this one's trending in the opposite direction out there. So, but again, rest assured, it's a power lane of power lanes. You're going to be fine out there. And again, if you guys want your lane broken down on the show, I need you guys to email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. Do your boy a solid. Just put the trailer type in there so I don't have to assume. And that's all we need. Dry van, reefer, or flatbed, pickup city, delivery city, and we're good to go. But let's talk about some inefficiencies out there, detention, all that fun stuff, gate operations, what's going on in the loading yard. And I just met this guy a couple weeks ago, and him and I are cut from the same cloth. I'm going to be honest. This is going to be a great conversation today. So I have Mr. Tom Dean of Renaissant on the show today. So Tom, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you.
Now, so let's jump in. You're in Wisconsin, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, you're drinking there. See, and we always got that Wisconsin connection. I love that. Wisconsin is the logistics capital of the world. Like, anything to like talk down on the Chicago market, because everybody's like, oh, Chicago's the transportation capital. No, it's the people of the north. But so, Tom, what brought you to starting Renaissant?
So it's a long story, but really Renaissant began with my brother, he's our chief product officer. And he was an Air Force Academy grad, worked in the Air Force for a long time, and was doing some work with some researchers at Air Force Research Labs. And it was around a safety and security use case. And what they were developing were some sensors that would detect a lot of things. One of them happened to be like gunfire. But my brother happened to be at the meeting where they said, hey, look, we're not going to do this anymore. And the government dropped the project. And he was like, gosh, that sounds, kind of weird, because this looks like it has a lot of value. And a general looked at him and said, yeah, Matt, well, what's next? And so that was really the kernel for Renaissant, is what's next. the real problem that you have in not just logistics, but in a lot of different things where you have physical people doing things is what should people be doing? When should they be doing it? And so one of our first big customers was a big shipper called Charter Steel, great partner of ours. They took me out to their yard and said, this is the problem. We don't have any way to get people to do what we want them to do when we want them to do it. We got 300 trucks out here and we don't know who's supposed to go where. And that was really the beginning. And so from there, we've grown over the last 6 years and have, we operated almost 200 yards, pretty much every kind of use case. And they all come back to the same thing. It's organization and getting people to do what you want them to do.
How, I think that one thing that I was very surprised about early on in my career in logistics is I'm not saying this is everywhere, and I try not to use like blanket statements, but so you would think that some of the largest logos in North America had everything figured out, right? Like from every part of their supply chain to their operation. And I think one of the most surprising things is that is why they actually hire transportation companies to help them become more efficient. And I think most individuals, and I'll include myself in this because I'm a human being, you go in when you're prospecting a shipper and you're like, I got to make money, I got to get revenue. I think every business owner or sales rep out there, that's always on their mind. But it's like when you can find the inefficiency inside of their operation and you can provide them with an actual solution that frees up capital. I mean, I could only imagine the amount of accessorials that some of your customers were paying on a monthly or a weekly basis. And it was probably all tied down to that inefficiencies that you were talking about with one of your first customers there.
Absolutely. And one of the things we found, so, we're a venture-backed startup company. We're a freight tech company. And I went to probably 100 meetings with venture capitalists, and they would look at what we're doing and saying, isn't this like a digital clipboard? And so people didn't get it. And I said, no, you got to come out and see it.
Yeah.
And when people saw it, you immediately see that the TMSs work great for what they're designed for. WMSs work great for handling inventory. But where those two things come together is at the gate. And there is just rampant inefficiency everywhere. One of our big customers that is a household name, I'm of course not going to name them here, but when a driver would arrive, they had 4 different shared spreadsheets they would use to check them in. It was like a 40-minute process just to get the driver through the gate. And so we took that 40-minute process out, took us about 3 weeks to do it. And then all of a sudden, as you mentioned, their accessorials, detention, demurrage, all of those things, those costs just start plummeting. And I'll also say that many of our customers are very quiet on how high those fees are because they see within about a week that we're going to make them go to zero. So they don't want us to know how much that's generating.
And I look at a lot of this because, when it comes down to with where I kind of see the industry heading, right? I'm not going to say it's here today or, in the next 2 years or anything like that. But I think we're going to get to a point, Tom, where operating costs, I don't think are going down for trucking companies. I think that this, again, fuel is the biggest driver today of, in the news about what's going on. But like the cost of goods, the cost to produce, the cost to procure equipment, new trucks, trailers, and everything, it's not going down. The cost to maintain them isn't going down. I think we're going to get to a point here in the foreseeable future where data is going to tell a carrier if they are going to send their truck into a facility. It doesn't matter how much a load might pay on the line haul. If they don't get loaded and unloaded in an efficient manner, they will start rejecting that freight because it's like, I look at it almost from like a predictive analytics standpoint, Tom, where they're going to look at shipper A and shipper B, both located. We'll use Milwaukee because that's where you're at. Both loads going to Dallas. These are all hypothetical rates here, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm not saying that this is what the price is going to be, but shipper A might have loading time and unloading time in under an hour. They might be moving that load for $1,800. There might be in shipper B, high loading time, high unloading time. It might pay $2,200, but there's a higher probability that you're going to get held up. You're going to miss out on that next load on top of that. And people are going to take the lower priced load that has a higher probability of a quick load and offload time because they're going to be able to keep their business moving. And I think with where tech is and where data is going, that is going to be very well publicized on the load board basis.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're right. And the flip side of that, so that's the transportation side. The flip side of it that we also deal with is the warehouse side. And they're, of course, heavily plugged into the security and the safety of things that are happening out in the industry right now. Could talk about the different fraud, theft, and safety issues that are out there. But they're looking at that side. So then you have your big enterprise shippers that they've got a lot of money to invest in shipping and their rates. If their rates go up 5%, yeah, it's not great, but it's not going to kill them. But like here in Wisconsin, you have a lot of middle market shippers that are trying to get safety, and they're not going to get safety if they can't be efficient, because they're just not going to have those top tier carriers aren't going to be available.
I look at it with what you guys have developed with Detention and other accessorials that are out there. Again, I don't know everybody's P&L, but like I would assume the increase in transportation that might come with added security and safety and everything is probably already sitting in the bucket, but they're paying it out in accessorials on a weekly or a monthly basis. And I think that, until you see everything clearly defined out there on one sheet of paper, digital sheet of paper, we'll call it, like, hey, you're paying $10,000 a month in accessorials. With us, we can get that down to like 1,000. Again, hypothetical example, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Yep. And at the same time, increase all of your security by digitizing all your documents, digitizing your interactions with truck drivers. So you have an entire log of the entire shipping cycle. So everything from the schedule creation all the way through to delivery in one place, that then also keeps your WMS and your TMS in sync. So that reduces your costs significantly. It increases the amount of shipments you can do per day. And oftentimes it can cut your labor in half, because warehouses have the same challenge that transportation companies do, and that's finding good people and retaining them.
Do you see, again, I look at it where, from a headcount standpoint, with where robotics in automation is going on the development side, do you think that we're going to see more of a push of that, of where they're going to automate that entire process, order picking, loading, all of that?
Yeah, well, I've seen order picking in some warehouses that is very highly automated. So inside the four walls, that I think is getting pretty good. Or 2 weeks ago, I was down on a panel at Forward Fort Worth at the Hillwood Annual Conference in Fort Worth, and there were some really interesting presentations with autonomous vehicle manufacturers and people doing autonomous drone. That is all coming. But what we see is like you can have autonomous vehicles, you can have autonomous picking, you can have autonomous yard jockeys running around your yard and moving trailers. Those, I think, all work independently. Yeah. But what happens is you run into the gate, and then all of a sudden you've got to have something telling everything, whether it's a person or a machine, what to do. And that's really the gap that we try to fill.
So, you were bringing up, security and fraud a little bit ago out there. So it's like, how much, and again, you might not have the data, but I'm just kind of like throwing this out there. How much of freight that is stolen is because of that lack of any real tracking or rhyme or reason about their yard operations? Do you think that that's a pretty big driver?
I think it's very high. Yeah. Because what we see is there's multiple places where this fraud is occurring. So, some you have ghost carriers out there, and these are totally illegit carriers that are generally criminal organizations. Yeah. They're out spoofing brokers, so they'll use, if your domain is goodbroker.com, they will make it good.broker.com. And a human being doesn't see that, especially if you're a small carrier and you've got 10 employees and you're checking, your schedules on your phone at the truck stop. Like, that's really hard to do. We find those things all the time in scheduling, and double brokering situations. Those occur. Guards and clerks have a very hard time knowing that. They don't know what's been scheduled. I mean, they know what's on the schedule, but they don't know what it was supposed to be. And so those types of security frictions are what, Renaissance really excels at bringing these things out. And it creates a lot of efficiency at the same time of ratcheting up the security.
Do you think that we're going to come to a point where, because I look, I can see it. And again, I could argue both sides of this point. I truly could. But I almost think we're at a point where you being able to digitally verify yourself as a driver or a trucking company to show you're legitimate. And again, I can argue both sides of this here. I almost see a day where that is going to be a requirement if you want to haul freight for specific companies, where it's like, hey, cool. Unless you can prove X, Y, and Z here at the shipper level, it's not going to be at the broker level. It's going to be at the shipper level. Unless you can do that, you're not going to be allowed to touch any of our freight.
Yep. That's actually happening right now. We're working with several companies right now that are doing that. So as you know, there's other companies out in the industry that do a very fine job at validating carriers and making sure valid DOTs, valid insurance, all of the things that they need to be a valid carrier. Where the struggle has been is getting down to the driver level. But some of these large enterprise shippers, they're requiring it. And then we become, Renaissant is like the clear. We're the ones who are validating them. I last week came back from Mexico and I got global entry and I walked in and they scanned me and said, yep, here's your information. And it all pops up on their screen. And I proceeded directly into the United States. It works very similarly at warehouses that really are investing in that type of technology.
Yeah, I almost think because even with everything that the FMCSA and the DOT is doing right now, like again, they're dropping an absolute hammer on a lot of the fraudulent actors, and it's great to see. I'll put my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat on here, and I also believe this to my core. Fraud and theft is going to get exponentially worse here over the next probably 24 months while they continue to tighten the belt around this stuff to bleed a lot of this stuff out of the market. I think that if you're a legitimate provider in any capacity, whether you're a broker or a carrier, your ability to prove that you are who you say you are is going to be one of the biggest hurdles here coming forward in the market that I don't know if anybody's even really talking about, because, when we're talking about billions, and most people can't even comprehend what $1 million is, let alone billions of dollars of stolen goods every single year. It's always easy to be like, oh, just have your insurance. Yeah, well, eventually insurance stops. Eventually insurance is like, I'm not paying this anymore.
Yep. And what I was at a meeting, this was maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, with some high level Department of Transportation officials, and they talked exactly about that. And they said, we're having top level conversations with executives in the insurance industry that are talking about not being able to insure freight at all anymore. And there are going to be some shippers that won't be able to get insurance in the not too distant future because the fraud is so, A, it's rampant, but B, it's just so random that the actuaries can't get their arms around what exactly is going on. And so there needs to be concerted efforts for the entire industry to stopping it. And our little piece is at the gate itself, because I think that's been a glaring hole. These other companies do a fine job with carriers, but when you're sitting at the gate, the clerk or the guard doesn't have any way to validate this. And so we use AI to do it, and it's very powerful.
Yeah, I look at that it's like, because there's a lot of, again, I'm not an attorney, shocking, I know. But I look at a lot of high profile cases that come out in regards to the transportation industry. And it's like, there has to be that line in the sand from like the broker community, in the sense of like, hey, we did everything to validate that this was who they say they were, from the FMCSA standpoint or the DOT standpoint. We followed all of that. We used all the great carrier vetting software that is out there. They gave us everything. But if that carrier then in turn sends somebody else in, how is that security guard going to know the difference? They're looking at POs essentially. They're like, oh, hey, you got the right PO? Cool, man, you're in. Go in there and pick up that trailer.
And that's where it breaks down. You're right. And they don't have that. We have a big enterprise customer, a big oil company that we work with their 4PL. So we get all of their scheduled data from the 4PL. So we know what that is. But then we're also integrated to all of the carriers and brokers that are dispatching. So we're automatically seeing this is what was scheduled, this is what arrived, and matching those things up. And when an AI agent is doing it, it doesn't make very many mistakes. And so then if it does see an anomaly, it highlights it to a person. And what happened in that particular case is we basically eliminated any fraud and theft that shipper was seeing. We did it in about 2 weeks, and we took 50% of their labor out, because
Yeah.
now you don't have that. Right now, a lot of these warehouses, you only have a brute force tactic you can use, which is apply more people, make more phone calls, send more emails to check on things. But AI can make that go away.
How does this improve visibility out there, right? Because it's like, I think knowing where your freight is on the road is one thing. And there's a lot of great tracking software, or ELDs. You could integrate your ELD in to show real-time visibility in there. But do you think now that they're essentially going to be like, hey, we got to have more visibility inside of our own operations to avoid loading the wrong product, or somebody being able to come in and grab you look at a lot of these drop trailer pools that are out there. There's 50 trailers for the same company. And it's like, if the driver grabs the wrong one, again, it can all spiral from there. So do you think that visibility is now going to shine their own spotlight internally on their yard operations?
No question. And many of the companies we work with, speaking of the drop trailers and picking up the wrong trailer, a lot of them aren't as concerned. I mean, they're concerned about theft and fraud, but the bigger issue is simple mistakes. Because a driver's picking up at 3 in the morning, and he's supposed to get trailer 1, 2, 3, 4, and he picks up 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And so then he's on his way to Memphis, but he's supposed to be on his, that trailer's it's supposed to be on its way to LA. They catch it in the middle of the night. That has a lot of cost. And now there's enough technology in the market where we can be automatically validating those things before that driver ever leaves the gate, and just let him know, hey, look, you just picked up the wrong trailer.
Yeah.
No.
And then it's almost like you can just put the stoplight effect at the gate, right? Like, where it's like, if there's a way to scan the unit, like, oh, boom, this isn't the wrong one. You gave us this PO. This is clearly not that on there. I don't know. Again, I could, the invasive. Yeah. But that's where it's like, again, I look at with, I've been in this industry a long time, Tom, and I have all the nostalgia as everybody else that's in this industry about the way we've always done things. But I'm way more excited about the next 5 to 10 years in this industry, because I think we're at a time of equality, in the sense of, like, we're at an equal playing field right now with where technology is. It doesn't matter, where everybody's packing the same punch in the market, right? Like, yes, some companies have more data than others, but we kind of all got access to the exact same stuff, right? I don't care how anybody wants to spin it. We're all doing it. But I look at it where consumers are. Amazon, I love Amazon, so I'm just going to stop right there. They have completely changed the game on how people can get their goods and get it there same day, next day, overnight, all of that stuff that's out there. I think every industry is going to have to adopt that in some way, shape, or form. And I think, like, almost like the regional hub and spoke model is going to be the norm moving forward for transportation, because people aren't going to want to wait 3 days to get their truckload of steel. They're like, I need it in 24 hours. This company can get it to me in 24 hours. And if you can't do it, we'll just go with them. Do you think that is going to be where the things are trending?
I do. And we have seen interest along those lines from, large 3PLs, smaller carriers that can't do this on their own, and some enterprise shippers asking for, like, fractional drop yards they can use as switching yards throughout their routes. So then they can be preloading. If you think about preloading a trailer pool at the warehouse, but then you can also be doing it along routes, so that you can be accelerating the time for that last mile delivery with more industrial type goods. Because I think that consumerification, if that's a word, that Amazon has done, it isn't just, I got to trademark that. That's now coming to the industrial market, right? Like, that's coming to steel, and it's coming to lumber and building products, and all of the other things that are not necessarily thought of as consumer packaged goods.
Yeah, I think that is where everything is going. And I was talking about tariffs yesterday, and every time I bring it up, everyone's an economist in the comments, and that's fine. I look at it where us reindustrializing the United States of America is only matching up with consumer behaviors, right? Like, because everybody wants it now. They don't want to wait. And somebody's going to find a way to do it. And look at every revolutionary shipping company that's out there that has gotten their customers' goods faster, cheaper, with more visibility. That is where things are, right? And it's like, I know everybody's got to make money in this transaction, and I get that. But I think that people's appetite for slow shipping is what's going to drive a lot of manufacturers out of business faster than any other economic indicator out there. Because if you can't get your goods, the right goods, not just goods, like the right goods to your customers in a short amount of time, your competitor probably is. And I think it starts with their own internal operations, with what you guys have developed here. I love this. And, when we first met a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, yes to all of this. This is where it's at. So I just wanted to kind of, as we're wrapping up the show here.
Absolutely. And, for me, it all comes back down to time, because, it's time. My expectation to receive things, that's measured in time, but also my cost to deliver those, that is also measured in time, because labor and fuel are your biggest costs out there. So the less time you're idling, the less fuel you're burning, and the less time that it takes to do things, the less labor that it requires.
No, I agree. Tom, thank you so much for your time today. How does anybody reach out to you guys to find out more about what you got going on?
Hey, so my name is Tom Dean. I'm the CEO of Renaissant. You can find us at Renaissant, RENAISSANT.com. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Perfect. Tom, thank you so much. If you guys can't find Tom or Renaissant out there at all, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with them. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the bag. Ayy, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast.